All right, it's 5:30. We'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You have to be careful with background noise, and it's always hard when a lot of people are talking, so it's important to keep our voices in the audience down during the meeting. Cheryl, let's begin with roll call.
Mr. Vidal.
Present.
Mr. DePlacido.
Here.
Mr. Allegeri.
Here.
Mr. Shaw.
Here.
Ms. Shaw. Mr. Wojtek.
Here.
Mr. Zona.
Here.
Mr. Enos.
Here.
Ms. Huff. Here. Mr. Kruger.
Here.
Ms. Shea. Ms. Terry. Yeah. And Ms. Weber. Yes.
Great. Okay, next item on the agenda is any public comments in regards to the agenda. We ask that you keep these to 3 minutes, please. No public comments on the agenda? Okay, do we have ask for approval of the minutes from the February 10th meeting?
So moved to approve. Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Vidal.
Yes.
Mr. DePlacido.
Yes.
Mr. Allegeri.
Yes.
Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Wojtek.
Yes.
And Mr.
Yes.
Zona.
Yes. Motion is so carried. Can we have the approval, a motion for the approval of the bills?
Sure. We have one bill to present tonight, and it's our first monthly bill, actually, from the Allegheny League, our consultants. It's for $10,342.20, and it represents quite a bit of work this first month, totaling 83 hours among the three consultants involved. I've seen the detail. It's in line with what we expect, and I move that this bill be approved for payment.
And I had a chance to look at it, I'll second it.
Okay, do we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Vidal.
Yes.
Mr. DePlacido.
Yes.
Mr. Allegeri.
Yes.
Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Wojtek.
Yes.
And Mr. Zona.
Yes. Motion so carried. Next item, new business. We're going to have a discussion of the resident survey. Are our partners going to give us a... Yeah. Pardon me? Yeah, I do. Is there...
Yes,
Mr. Fortman?
the resident survey was part of the agenda packet, and it's a draft survey with regard to it now being reviewed in terms of its content, and I welcome any comments, suggested changes, rewording, etc., to make it more specific or to cover some topics or areas that you feel are appropriate and relevant. And this survey is really what I'll call an overview survey with regard to seeking comments from the residents to inform the Government Study Commission relative to information that's provided in the resident survey. It's also called a questionnaire, survey questionnaire. So I welcome all of you to review these, comment on them, and let me know whether you have changes. Again, add, subtract, reword, and we can revisit it at the March 10 meeting. I'd like to also advise that this could be the first of maybe 2 resident survey/questionnaires. The second one could be after the Government Study Commission deliberates and decides through discussion and research and otherwise whether they want to move toward a one of the 4 optional plans of government, or they may recommend no change as well. In the event that the study commission wants to pursue a optional plan of government, a second survey questionnaire could be put together and distributed throughout the community in various ways, looking at the optional plans of government, or whether they would like no change, just to get a barometer and reading on the sentiment and perspective and just overall thinking of the public of Mill Creek Township. So I open this up for discussion and just, talking about this, again, survey/questionnaire.
Are there any comments or questions in regards to the survey, commissioners?
Michael, what would be your timing on this? What would you,
The timing on the one you have in front of you?
and the second, now that you brought it up?
Okay, the first one, I think the timing would be to circulate it latter March or very early April. Because in April, and at the latest May, will be the time frame in which the Government Study Commission begins to look deeper into the specific 4 optional plans of government to become more conversant, well-informed, and just to get a higher comfort level of the content of each of those 4 optional plans of government. Once the decision is made by the study commission, we'll say in May, then a survey could go out June throughout the rest of the time frame till the election, asking questions about the various optional plans of government and see what the response is. Along with that second survey would also be public forums and public education sessions that would help inform the public as to what those optional plans of government are and mean, the differences, similarities, etc., so that it helps provide a better result, and I think a more substantive and informed result from the residents of the township to, again, give insight and guidance, direction, and just overall perspective on your process in terms of what you're responsible to do, which again is to move toward a optional plan of government or to move toward no change. So I hope that addresses your concern about timing for the first, timing for the second. And these would both be posted on the website as well as through other ways that people could get paper copies at various venues or locations throughout the township.
Mr. Foreman, what did you say the best ways to disseminate these in addition to the website? You think it would be good to have paper copies like here, like at the Mill Creek Township building?
Yes, if it's appropriate at the township building, you could do it at places like a library, a supermarket, other places where the public goes, patronizes, maybe even something related to the school district. But again, this is something that we'll talk more about. And it could even be listed as part of the public education, public outreach, be available at the public forums that you'll have throughout the township in a few months, as well as sending them to the media outlets and using them as part of the discourse in being interviewed and encouraging residents to fill them out and send, respond and send them in or, submit them on the website. But it's all part of the public outreach committee in terms of how you want to distribute them throughout the community, besides the website.
Are there any other comments or questions in regards to this survey?
Yeah, I do.
I have a comment.
Paul? Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
A question more than a comment. How do we control that it's only filled out by people from Mill Creek, and do we care if it's not?
How do we control that
Responding to the survey.
people other than
Well,
Mill Creek resident.
on the survey, one of the first questions is, are you a resident of the township? So again, it implies and infers that someone's going to be truthful in regard to their response versus someone that doesn't live in the township but still responds to the survey, which could be difficult to decipher between a resident and a non-resident.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good point.
I know that there is a question of, that we do ask, are you a resident of Mill Creek, but, that's like, that's pretty vague. Somebody can put whatever they want, but it probably is not that important whether, we could probably, we'll take what we get and we'll go from there.
Correct. We'll take it in the context in which it's given in the comments and, go from there. Exactly, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, I think it's really important that we do some public outreach. We've immersed ourselves in this information for now months, and we're still struggling, I think, with a little bit of the intricacies of what we're being asked to do. So I think the public outreach to inform Mill Creek citizens of what we've done, who we've talked to, what we've learned, and the information that we gathered is really important before we start asking questions to to residents or an electorate that is not informed on these topics. So I think we have to be careful that we do that first before we ask them to comment on it, is that we inform them on what we've done, what we've learned, what the optional forms of government are or aren't, that we do a lot of that outreach prior to surveying our community.
You make a very good point, and there are preliminary steps that need to be taken to prepare for a better result in terms of the content of these surveys and questionnaires. You're absolutely right. And again, that's all part of the public outreach, public promotion, public relations, IT committee that is part of this process that will help move this survey questionnaire along.
So in your prior work, you've utilized these surveys?
Correct.
And would you have any idea what kind of response those have gotten?
Well, you won't get 100% response. Normally, you get 25, 30%.
Of the residents of the community?
Correct. Yes. At best. On a good process.
And I know we've started to look at other townships in the Commonwealth that have changed their form of government, but those were all driven, I think, by the government itself, as I recall from our meeting in Cranberry, that most of these switchovers or changeovers to a different form of government were led by the government themselves, who saw maybe the efficiency or effectiveness of a different form of government over their current form of government.
Yes, in most cases, it's driven by the governing body. However, there are instances where the citizens circulated a petition to qualify to have the county election office place the question on the ballot whether or not to form a government study commission of normally 7 members. That's correct. So you get a hybrid, but again, the key is to do some preliminary preparations and planning to be able to get a good result from the survey. Again, as many people as possible, but before that, getting as many people as possible informed and aware of the Government Study Commission and what they're doing, what its purpose is, and even leading to maybe some public forums to help explain that as part of public education, because you're still in the study process, and you are looking for input and feedback and comments from the public. So along with that could be a public forum before you make a formal decision, just to get a sense of what they're thinking and use it as an opportunity to explain, describe, inform people attending what are these 4 forms of government, along with the choice of deciding no change.
Michael, one of the questions just popped into my head was, Did you ever, any of these other situations, did you ever use the primaries as an opportunity to talk to the electorate? The primary elections, which in here, I think in May, at the polls, I don't even know if that's allowed, but it seems that's where you're going to get the people that are most concerned, or the people that vote, or the people that are involved in the community that show up at primary elections, that it might be a good opportunity to engage the residents at that time.
Well, the normal procedure is to begin these several months, whether it's a primary or a general election. And a lot of times, these questions end up in a general election. But at the same time, it could be the timing where you get a primary referendum question. So either way, and you know, good point about more people showing up for a primary than maybe the general election because of the nature of the party system within that municipality, that whoever wins in May is usually the victor in November, just based upon numbers of party people in terms of majority, and just how that plays out, you know, in either Republican or Democratic-controlled municipalities. But either way, the public outreach and the surveys are methods to hear back from the people. What are they thinking? You know, what is their disposition? How well informed are they? And just kind of like Mayor Koch of 30, 40 years ago used to go out to the streets of Manhattan and New York City. How am I doing? Please tell me and be honest about it. So you could almost look at that approach in terms of these surveys or questionnaires. How are we doing? We'd like to know what we're doing well and what we can do better. And that could be reflected in the recommendation you make to change or not change.
Any other discussion on the survey? I trust we'll all be studying these.
So I would hope that this comes up again for discussion with hopefully fine-tuning March 10 or the March 24 meetings so that we could try to finalize it and get it out into the mainstream, you know, about April, May.
Okay.
Certainly before you make a decision. And again, even schedule a public forum throughout the township where we could talk about what you're doing and the choices that you have, and try to explain them. It's almost like a Government 101 civics lesson of what local government can be or could continue to be. So,
Okay, perhaps, we obviously will have more discussion at the March 10th and March 24th meetings. Hopefully, we'll have a final survey by the March 24th meeting. Does that fit our timetable?
again, I welcome any comments that you want to change the verbiage, the changing of the questions, how they're stated, something might have been missed, et cetera. I welcome all comments. Thank you. Yes, so March 24, we'll hopefully finalize this. Thank you.
So let's seriously examine it, and we can discuss it again at the March 10th meeting. All right, next item, committee reports. We'll start with a budget report from Jim Dedad. Mr. Dedad?
Sure. On the agenda, it indicates that we're conducting research on other township budgets and audits, and that's, we'll be continuing. We're collecting the data still. There's a lot of information from the townships that we visited, as well as there's a series of maybe 4 or 5 other townships that we haven't visited, but hope to get some comparisons between Mill Creek and us, and them. Of course, it'll be challenging because these townships cover different areas. We picked the ones closest to us, but there are some others that aren't close to us in area as well as population. And so the challenge will be comparing apples to apples and seeing what it all means, and then having a readout regarding that. So that's where we're at with that. The other thing is I generally like to show where we are actual to budget at this point, and not including the bill that we approved tonight. We had, out of our $100,000 budget, we had $98,822 left. If you look at today's bill, which was approved, we're down to $88,500. So I think we're in line with what we planned on, and that's all I have.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Dedad? Okay, moving along, the Local Government Structure Subcommittee, Mr. DePlacido.
Yes, thank you. I guess I'd like to start first by, and we talked about it last week, Mr. Foreman gave an excellent presentation, but what the study commission is focusing in on is Class 2 townships and the optional forms of governance under the Class 2 township. Right now, Mill Creek runs under Class 2 township proper, I'll call it. We have been charged with looking at the options. Those 4 options are the Executive Mayor-Council Plan A, Executive Mayor-Council Plan B, and there's a Plan C, that's the third one, and the fourth one is the Council Manager Plan. So that's our task, and that's what we're looking at doing. We're looking at other townships that are similar or different under the Class 2 and getting information from there. That's what the Structure Committee is set up to do. And to get into it a little bit, we did have our first major meeting with other townships on February 18th last week. And we had it down in Cranberry Township. They were nice enough to host us, and it was a very, I think, productive meeting in a great facility they have down there. So some of the things that we asked them, I'll be a little bit general here, were how many years they had served in their, and we're talking about the managers, and we even had a couple council members in the mix. But in general, we asked them how many years they have served in their current position, the level of their other municipal experience and education, what their duties and responsibilities are, and what departments they oversee. They were also asked to describe the optional plan of governance or second-class township code they operate under. Taking into consideration that they had worked for other townships, they were asked how the role of the governing body as a policy decision makers while serving as appointed working elected supervisors, administrators, function in those places where they had worked. They were asked to discuss how their current governing body functions as a policy and decision-making body only, to describe their working relationship with the governing body, and if they felt it would be problematic or incompatible for them as township managers to have working elected council or commissioners oversee and manage any employees. These were the general questions. There were others, but these were kind of the things that we got into. As you can imagine, it got into some of the meetings. We allowed an hour, hour 15, whatever, and it took a little bit longer, and we had a couple other things. And in general, those were the main questions. Our first interview was with a gentleman named Bruce Patel, and he was the manager of the Lower Macungie Township and a former assistant manager of the Hempfield Township. Lower Macungie is a township of the first class. We're dealing with second class, but we interviewed, he was in the first class, operating under the first class township code, and is organized under the council manager model with 5 commissioners. Bruce was assistant manager when they converted there from working supervisors to council manager model. The township has 50 year-round employees and additional seasonal employees. Bruce also informed the group that his former employee changed from working township supervisor form of government to the council manager mode in 2002. He noted that the commissioners set policy and staff under direction as Bruce, as township manager, implements that policy. The chief focus of the commissioners in their township is master planning and policy development. There's a tradition of commission members serving 2 terms and moving on because they believe fresh thinking benefits their residents. Each commissioner receives a yearly stipend that is stipulated in the first-class township law, approximately $4,800 they make. The township does not have an in-house solicitor or engineer. A labor attorney assists with negotiations, and he estimates the total annual legal bill, including the labor attorney, as less than $200,000. The next interview we had was with Dan Santoro from Cranberry Township, along with two supervisors were with him, Mr. Scarpani and Mr. Mazzoni, and we talked to them. Cranberry is a township in the second class, operating under the second class township code for milk rates, similar to what we are. However, they voluntarily implemented the council manager 5 non-township employee supervisors model after the Government Study Commission recommended that model in their 1983 final report. However, even prior to that, the board of supervisors never appointed themselves to full-time positions with the township. They feel having elected supervisors that are employed by the township would not work because it would interfere with the functioning of the manager and create confusion. A law firm does their solicitor work, and they consider legal expenses would be $100,000 or less on a typical day. Year, sorry. Yeah, year. After lunch, we met with Mr. Adam Brumbaugh, township manager in College Township down in Center County, and heard a little from him. College Township is a township of the second class that implemented the optional council manager plan for government in 1976 as recommended by their Government Study Commission. Adam knows that there have only been 3 managers in their history. They have no elected auditors and no paid solicitor on staff. They contract legal services and spend approximately $10,000 a year in legal fees. He feels it is important as his role as manager and very productive to constantly engage council members in discussions when certain decisions have to be made. But he runs the day-to-day operations guided by the council direction. Lastly, we met with a gentleman named Mr. Anderson, and he's the township manager in Indiana Township. Indiana Township is a township of the second class that implemented the optional council manager plan of government as recommended by their Government Study Commission. The council elects a member of the council as mayor who serves as the presiding officer of the council.
They receive a stipend of approximately $2,400. There's no solicitor on staff, and the law
Firm handles their legal matters, and their bills average approximately $40,000 a year. They're a smaller township. In addition, in answer to a question from one of the committee members, he said that by and large, his colleagues across the state feel that governing and managing with 3-member boards of supervisors is more difficult than with a 5-member board. Also, this township has written into their code that although they have 5 council members, when only 3 are present for a vote, the vote must be unanimous or the motion fails. The committee inquired as to, and we have, those are 4 people that we interviewed. There's a lot more. This is just kind of the overview of it. We have at least 1 more scheduled, and we're working on 2 for a meeting on March 10th, as I believe. We're going to have it here up in the one of the conference rooms. And I think that'll handle it for now. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. DePlacido in regards to his report?
I have a question about
Mr.
Can you
Wojtek?
put the microphone by his?
Sure.
Yeah, my question is, first of all, I want to thank the committee and the folks who went down to do those meetings with those folks down there. I think that's the most critical part of what we're doing here is gathering the information and then having the commission make a decision going forward. And also wanted to thank Ms. Weber for the copious notes that she circulated from those meetings. My question is this, and maybe it's more for the public partners. Do we want to, in addition to Mr. DePlacido's, good report there, do we want to have the commission members maybe review those minutes that Ms. Weber circulated and make those? Do you think, public partners, do you think that would be a good idea to have those as part of the record and have those approved into the record.
That's at the discretion of the commissioners, the commission, whether or not to embrace and improve the minutes to make them part of the record with regard to the proceedings of the study commission. It's a good suggestion.
I'm wondering if, I'm sure they'd be helpful and useful in the development of our final report, and I just wondered if that, and I'm not suggesting one way or the other. I'm just totally asking the question, do you think it might be a good idea? And if we're fine just having those kind of on the outskirts and going with Mr. DePlacido's reports, I'm 100% fine with that. I just was asking, what you thought about entering those into the official record of our meetings.
You got any discussion on that? For or against?
Well, that was a fact-finding mission. There wasn't a lot of discussion on our part other than the questioning of the individuals, whether they were supervisors or managers. There wasn't discussion as members of the commission on any decision. It was more us listening than anything else, but I don't have a problem if it's part of the record. But there was no discussion about which form is better, or which form is this, or should we not have a form? There was no discussion of that. It was more of a fact-finding mission, but I think it was well worth the time, and I don't have a problem it being part of the record.
Yeah, just to be clear, I mean, there are no opinions here. These are just the facts that we gathered. We asked questions, we got answers, and we're just bringing them forward. Obviously, in the future, we'll take part of these, all of them.
That question, I think, either way, they were very informative for me, I can tell you that. And, if we just want to have those as a reference, that's fine too.
I'm of the opinion that Mr. DePlacido's report is adequate for the purposes of our recorded meeting.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, it's appropriate that you make them part of the proceedings, the official record of the proceedings of the Government Study Commission, because of the nature and the content of that narrative, those minutes.
Mr. Foreman, you're saying that we should make it part of the official record?
Yes, it's appropriate to do that through a motion and a formal roll call vote.
Someone that wants? Go ahead, Mr. Wojtek.
Yeah. The only thing I would just say is that just make sure that I don't know that we want to do that today. We may want to do that in 2 weeks, but make sure that members of the committee that was down there doing that if we do decide to make them part of the record, make sure they have a chance to review those, because it's going to take a motion, in a second, to make them part of the record. Make sure they have a chance to review to make sure that they were, that they're comfortable, because it then becomes, a little bit more formal.
Yes, the consideration of the commission to approve or not could be the next meeting, March 10, so the commission members have time to review it, comment on it, and to make sure that it reflects their understanding of the activity and the event and the comments that were made by the managers. Yeah, so I would plan to approve it on March 10 after you have a chance to review it, in your own privacy of your home, so to speak.
Okay, so all the commissioners will review that report, and we'll discuss it at the March 10th meeting.
Yeah, I'll remember to put on the agenda as part of approval of minutes. I'll just mark it down as February 18, along with this meeting.
Okay, very good, Mr. Foreman.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? We'll go on to the next report. The Public Outreach Subcommittee by myself, Art All-Legere. The recently held subcommittee meeting, we had updates from our IT team. The Mill Creek website is moving along thanks to the efforts of our team, Doug Kruger and Kim Huff. It is up and running. We have a summary of the optional plans. We have organizational charts. We have the meeting schedule. making sure that we invite all the Mill Creek residents to come to the meeting. They're open to the public. We have the visit report, and the fact that you can watch our meetings on YouTube. We're trying to make sure that all Mill Creek residents understand what we're doing and are getting reports on what we're doing. Following that, we had a discussion on the budget for the dissemination of information to Mill Creek residents. And we're working on a monthly budget of roughly, for the first 3 months, beginning in March, we're looking at a budget of roughly $500 a month, the next 3 months, $1,000 a month, and then on September and October, including the first 3 days in November, roughly $2,500 a month. And that comes to $10,000. We can adjust that. We've allocated more than that. But that's just a beginning baseline budget. We have the ability to adjust that each month. The next item was we are working with Joe Farrelly and working with him on social media and disseminating information with his help. And we'll start with the information being put on our Facebook page with links to a Better Mill Creek and All Things Mill Creek, and also the township page, so that there'll be various areas where Mill Creek residents, if they can't come to the meeting, can get information on the progress of the Mill Creek Government Study Commission. In addition to that, with the budget that we have, there will be, and we're still working on this with Joe Farrelly, he's our VIVX advertising agency. He's working on putting spots on social media, more or less a progress report or a review of what we've done in the prior month and what we plan to do in the following month. And we'll be producing that spot within the next few days, so that hopefully by March 1st or the first week in March, we can have a report on what was done in February, such as the study of the townships that we'd studied, and what we're planning to do in the month of March. And all of this will be accomplished by a spot very similar to a TV spot. It'll be, except that it wouldn't be limited to 30 seconds. If we need 60 seconds or 90 seconds, we can do whatever it takes to include all the information we think that is appropriate. And that information then would be put on social media, as well as it would be on our Facebook page, A Better Mill Creek, All Things Mill Creek, and the township page. So we're trying to get maximum market penetration so the people in Mill Creek know what we're doing. And we're going to make sure that it's up to date and it's thorough. And this will start, we'll have production this week. And ideally, and this was a suggestion from the advertising agency, we have about 8 months left, and we thought his recommendation was each commission member would take 1 month, and he would be the face of that commission beginning now. And so hopefully all the commissioners would be able to take a turn being the spokesperson, and that way people in Mill Creek can actually have a personal glimpse of each one of the commission members. So we're going to start that, for the month of March, reviewing what we did in February and what we had planned in March. So you want to look forward to these spots, much like a TV spot, and at some point, depending on our budget and what our budget allows, that perhaps we could, if we choose to do a spot, we could put it on TV at some point later on in the summer months and in the early fall months. With the, one of the best things that the media has that would work very well with us is inside area politics. It usually runs at 7 p.m. On certain weekday nights, and it's hosted by Philip Ward and Mike Ruzzi. And we thought that would be a great vehicle, even though it goes out to the whole WICU viewing audience. There's an awful lot of Mill Creek residents that watch that. We'd like to schedule several of those throughout this whole campaign. It gives us great market penetration, even though some of the ears that'll be listening won't be Mill Creek residents. And so, Phil, in fact, he was here earlier. We've gotten coverage from WICU, WJET, and also Valerie from the Erie Times News. So that's a work in progress. Hopefully sometime during the month of March, we will have representation by one or more of the commissioners as well as our public partners on the blue couch on Inside Erie Politics. I hope everybody is familiar with the blue couch. That might be the most important spot in the media in Erie, Pennsylvania. And there's room for 2 people, and so we're trying to schedule that for the middle of the month. And the last item we talked about was we're trying to prioritize Mill Creek groups that we might be able to talk about later on in the campaign, where we can tell them about the different forms of government, but mostly educating them on why the commission is choosing an optional form of government that they're choosing, or choosing to stick with the status quo. And we have some of our committee people reaching out to organizations like the Rotary, the Elks Club, Torch, the Lions Club, and making contacts for later on in the year, so that we'll have a platform to discuss this. We're doing our very best in making sure that we get great market penetration to all 50,000 residents in Mill Creek Township, to let them know that the commission is working very hard. And it's an ongoing process, and we're working every week and every month on this process that they elected us to do. Does anybody have any questions in regards to the public outreach report? Yes.
Art, I think it would be interesting to comment that if anybody would like us to come and speak to their group about what we are doing, how we're doing it, just contact us. We'd be more than glad to schedule one of the commission members to come out.
We actually have 7 commissioners, so we have plenty of manpower to visit multiple groups and to be in multiple places as this campaign heats up. We certainly have the manpower to do it and the desire to do it. You have a great group of commissioners beginning to work very, very hard on what the Mill Creek residents have elected us to do. Any other questions for the Public Outreach Committee? All right, the next item on the agenda are the committees of the whole reports. And we're going to conduct workshops on each optional plan of government with the commission in the month of March. Do our public partners have something to discuss?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Foreman.
Thank you, Art. The initial forum or discussion of each of the optional plans is appropriately done through the Local Government Structure Committee to convey that type of information to them initially. Then it can be presented to the Committee of the Whole, which is all of the Government Study Commission members. So that's the approach or the strategy or the way in which we public partners, consultants, would like to carry out that part of the educational step of, again, you're working through the Local Government Structure Committee, since the optional plans do deal with structure of government. And again, it would then fold out or ripple to the Committee of the Whole or all Government Study Commission members to educate them, inform them, and have a discussion about it, if that's your
Very good.
way you want to go. Thank you.
Have we identified the the townships we're going to visit in March?
We'd like to start these in March, yes. It would be through the committee meeting initially that we can discuss after tonight's meeting through discussion about people's availability, the committee members' availability.
Okay.
Art asked about the townships. It's Northampton from Bucks County and Ben Salem from Bucks County.
Thank you. 2 additional interviews are being scheduled the afternoon of March 10, our next meeting. It would be upstairs in the conference room. And I believe at this point there will be 2 additional township manager interviews that the Local Government Structure Committee would facilitate and oversee. Similar to the form that was used and the format used in Cranberry on February 18. And I believe they will be virtual with regard to the meeting with the manager folks.
Maybe mention Ben Salem's council.
Sorry. And Ben Salem Township has a mayor-council optional plan of government. And the other one would be Northampton Township, which is a council manager form of government.
And both of these townships have populations very similar to Mill Creek, correct?
That's correct. They're up near the top of the list of the 25 most populous townships in Pennsylvania, yes. So we're trying to keep comparable sized municipalities in the front of the interview process.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, I think it's important too that we're doing that and looking at all 4 of those options, townships that are in our purview here, so that we have a very wide database.
Exactly.
That when we start to look at things, that we can say that we looked at all, or at least most of the different options that we've been charged to do.
That's correct. More variety, more perspective, and more contrast to what you have in Mill Creek Township. Exactly.
Any other questions or comments?
I just want to comment that I was really surprised when we were in Cranberry, the relationship between the council or the supervisors and the township manager, the amount of trust that they have in each other, and also the education and the background and the experience of the township managers that we discussed or talked with. Most of those individuals not just had a bachelor's degree, but a master's degree, and dozens of years of experience in the field. And I was amazed by that. I just wanted to mention that.
I'd just like to add that 2 of the people we spoke with also had masters in public administration. Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's move on to the next item. Other business. Does any commissioner have other business they want to bring up at this time?
No, sir.
Art?
Yes, Mr. Wojtek.
Yeah. I just want to touch base on, I think everybody's doing a great job with these committees, and especially the structure committee. I was tasked with reaching out to the Mill Creek leadership and trying to establish a meeting with them. They were somewhat reluctant to come to a public meeting. Whether we agree with that or disagree, that's the actuality of it. I had suggested written questions, but I'll be honest with you, I received a couple of individuals that expressed some serious concerns about that, and I think maybe that's not our best way to proceed. I did, and Art, you're there at the meeting. I did reach out to Art, and we discussed a little bit about what do we do? What do we do in this case? One of the things that and it was, I won't take any credit for it. It was Art's suggestion. I just want to share it with everybody, and I thought it was a great idea. Art suggested, well, why don't we kind of treat them as we treated everybody else we interviewed, and have a committee interview them, at a time that's amenable to everybody. Whether it's, we didn't really discuss too much of the details, but whether it's one or all three together or 2-on-1, whatever, and try to get the information that we're looking for using those means. I was going to throw that out there to the commission to see if there was any thoughts. Like I said, I'm going to pull the written question version off the table. It just seemed like there was a number of people that reached out to me individually and expressed some concerns about that. So I thought, maybe we could invite them to a meeting with a committee of our commission, just like the other townships did, and see if we can get the information we need about Mill Creek Township using that forum. I just want to throw that out there. I don't want to pretend to tell people how we're going to do this. I want the commission to be fully supportive, and whether we have a total consensus or a majority, I'm putting that out there for discussion. Just to take it one step further, I was thinking of having the chair people from the 3 committees that we have established, our standing committees. But I understand, in talking to Jim earlier today about the bill for the public partners, he's going to be out of town, and the other folks on the budget committee are myself and Bill Shaw. I thought maybe, and Bill was involved in the meetings with the other communities as well, so I was looking at possibly a committee of, if we go down this road, a committee of Art, Bill, and John Placido, to conduct interviews, and if there is any, maybe up to 2 alternates that want to go, and a couple folks from Public Partners as well. That's a thought. I'm putting that out there for any discussion or comments or questions or better ideas. But I think we do need to move to get something set up with them to get the information that we need to keep this momentum going that we obviously have right now. So I'm putting that out there as other business and kind of putting it out there for the commission.
Great idea. I believe that we've made some contact, and we are trying to schedule, and we understand the written questions have been pulled off the table, and we would do what we would do with other townships, with the committee. I think it's a great idea, Paul.
Well, that was your idea, Art. I think it's a great idea, Art.
So I think we're working on it. It's important that we do, we're going to interview several townships, with the leaders of government in those townships, and it's only right that we would interview our own township under the same platform with the other ones, so that we're comparing apples to apples and we get a clear view of it. And do we think that, and we're working with our public partners to try to schedule that as an intermediary to perhaps in the month of March.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I wasn't aware if there was already, there was progress made on that. I wasn't aware. I just wanted to make sure the commission in total was aware of the thought. If there's already things going on, then I'll kind of step back a little bit. I didn't realize that was things are in motion.
Any other comments, Mr. Foreman? Oh,
Not at this time.
no. Any other comments from the commission?
Paul or Art, whoever started that, it's a good thing. It is a great thing. And I think the questions would be similar to what we've asked everyone else. There's nothing special one way or another. They're just kind of generic questions on this or that, and I think they're appropriate for that, and I hope we can set it up.
Like most interviews, we had a list of prepared questions thanks to our public partners, but also as you're sitting in an interview, questions come to mind that might not be on that sheet of paper. And it really is a casual dialogue, and it really was less than a formal interview. And we all took turns asking questions, and it was a very easy flow of information. And the questions that we asked, we got very good answers, and that format, I think, would work with our Mill Creek leaders as well.
Yes, we see this as a prudent approach.
The public partners, when Michael circulated, topics of discussion or areas of discussion, I think aren't exactly what you're talking about. It's areas that, could lead to questioning, but it's not like a multiple choice answer or yes and no for the most part. It's something that could lead into more open discussion and more of a meeting format versus an interview like someone's on the witness stand or something. It's more or less a meeting where we're trying to get the best information we can, and I think like I said, if you guys have already started that in motion, kudos to you guys, and hopefully we can get those things behind us and move forward, keep going.
Any other comments on that?
I just like to say, I think it's really important that we speak with the supervisors here because there is no like governing body in township size of ours in the Commonwealth. So we can't talk to anybody else that runs this system of government because it's not out there in the bigger townships of the Commonwealth. So I think it's really important that we do get to speak with the supervisors here in the same manner we spoke with the others.
As Mr. Wojtek said, it's really not a formal job interview. It was a very, very casual meeting, and people just asked questions at will, and it was a very, very positive experience.
Right, it's another venue for fact-finding and getting a greater and broader understanding of the role and responsibilities of the Board of Supervisors.
And not surprising, the governmental leaders that we spoke with were very, very helpful and very anxious to provide information that we were seeking. So it was a very, very good meeting, very good fact-finding, and hopefully it'll be the same when we interview the leaders of our Mill Creek government. Do you have any other business that anybody wants to bring up? Okay, next item. We have any comments from the public, from the audience? Let's try to keep this to 3 minutes.
You said this was on a public website now, or a Mill Creek website?
It is on the it is on the Mill Creek website. We're still working.
Under what?
Government study. There's a page.
There is a page?
Yes.
Well, I know the agenda and the meetings are there, but I just looked.
It is. We're working on it, and we just discussed we want to make this very, very easy for any Mill Creek resident to access this. And our IT team we're not done with it. They're not done with it. I said we want this very easy to access, so any resident that wants information can get it. But it is up now.
Sure. Well, I'll take a look and see if I can find it.
It's up.
But, I could, what's easy to some isn't easy to others.
I'm about your age, so I know what it's like to try to navigate.
Okay. Now, this gentleman's, I keep losing your name, but.
This gentleman? John.
Your report, is that going to be available for anybody to see right now or on that website? I mean, all your facts, all your figures, are you looking at the money side of it? You talked a little bit about money. I don't have anything wrote down for Cranberry as far as what they're paying and the positions they have. And I just, I know one thing. When this first was proposed, home rule was out.
Correct.
Decided at the supervisors meeting. And then there's a gentleman that said, we aren't interested on the commission about a mayoral type government. Mr. Rolligerri. You said.
Perhaps I misspoke, Mr. Servideo.
And, you know, we have two other towns, you know, Harbor Creek's they're not our side, neither is Fairview, but I mean, there's probably some insight there, you know, without traveling out of the county. You know, I'm not saying you have to go there, but there are some smart men running that too. And their townships seem to run pretty good. I still don't understand why you guys, I don't care, you switched to Indiana Township, which is a Class 1, you went out of the Class 2, correct? Or you're gonna?
Getting too much information is never a bad thing. You're talking to people that are involved in government. It's never a bad thing to have too much information.
What were you gonna say?
I didn't understand what you said.
Oh, I have Indiana Township down as a Class 1. I believe you spoke to it, didn't you, or somebody did? You did, right? They're a Class 1 township.
Well, while he's looking, I'll just add too that the individual we spoke to had previous experience from a Class 2 township, if I'm correct, and we asked him some questions about that as well. I don't remember the township, though. Hempfield, okay.
I thought, oh, all right.
The only first-class township was Lower Macungie Township. Right. They started off as a board of supervisors. They had a referendum to go to a first-class township, and that's how they operate now.
Okay. I also looked you guys up. Public partners. Seven people. You're professionals. And 6 of them are all we're a manager. I'm just telling you, from a little bit of meetings I come from, and there's integrity in Title 53, I forget what.
Can you use the microphone, Mr. Servideo?
Oh, what?
Can you use the microphone so everybody can hear you?
Under Title 53, you know, there's a word, and you have to read down. It's quite a long title, you know, Chapter 29, long chapter. Has integrity. You know, there's other words you can associate with fidelity. It says fidelity, so integrity is part of it. And I still question, not the study itself, I question the way it was brought up at the township meeting, and I'm not saying these guys are a bad job, but it seems like it's a slant towards a manager council government.
You'll be able to read all the reports from the other townships that we study.
Well,
Thanks for your comments.
thank you.
Any other public comment?
Good evening. My name's Dennis McAndrew. I attend a lot of supervisor meetings, and I'm glad towards the end.
Can you identify yourself?
Dennis McAndrew,
Okay.
longtime Mill Creek resident, over 30 years. I attend quite a few supervisor meetings. Other than Sue Weber, who was a supervisor, I don't think any of you have taken the time, or very often, other than when you have an axe to grind, I have never seen you at a meeting. I think you should maybe shadow or attend more meetings and time. I know Sue knows a lot of the way the township was run. To see how can you compare if you don't know what you're comparing anything to if you haven't seen it in operation. I mean, it'd be like comparing a car to a motorcycle, but you never rode a motorcycle before. Just want to make that observation. I think a lot of people thought this commission was to study what was best to save money for the township. It sounds more and more like you want to change the government. I think that a lot of the citizens, when they voted for the study, were unintentionally or intentionally misled. And even it was commented before this commission was agreed upon, it was commented about how the other study only cost $10,000. You guys have already spent that and have a $100,000 budget, and you've already spent $10,000. So I think a lot of people were surprised to see and hear that you have a budget of $100,000 and that the perception is that you are spending the money because you can, and I don't think you should be. A lot of people thought the study was not going to cost that much. A lot of milk, because people are looking to save pennies and are looking at the government change as a way to save money, not to change the government that seems to be working for them now. Too many people are working 2-3 jobs to get by, don't have time to watch every little thing that's going on in this township. You need to remember that. Not everyone is full of money in this township. It's an aging population because of the baby boomers. Better be careful on what you're spending. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to point out that we spent a lot of time trying to educate Mill Creek residents on the why the government study was doing what they're doing. And of course, you always want to save money, and taxes never go down because expenses never go down. But we're just working hard after 200 years, and this is, one of the main points. After having the same form of government for 200 years, it might be a good idea to evaluate the status quo. And although we won't have the opportunity to go to other township meetings, some of us have been at some meetings of the Mill Creek Township, but we're interviewing other townships much in the same way that we're going to interview the Mill Creek Township government officials. And it's amazing how much information you can get and how you can make an adequate comparison among various governments. And you have a group of 7 smart people and 13, 14 people on this committee that are really going to study this and decide, what's best for Mill Creek for another 200 years. We've had the same form of government for 200 years, and that was one of the main drivers. Back in 1810, I don't think we had, 200 residents. Today we have 50,000. And as always, we'll keep all Mill Creek residents informed, and we've tried to be very transparent about costs. Mrs. Weber.
Thank you, Sue Weber. I did want to say that with regard to the last government study, they didn't have a professional facilitator, and no one does this without that because you don't know what you're doing if you don't. That government study, if you take a look at it, if you take a look at the report, most of the pages are just newspaper articles about township managers that got arrested or got ousted. And when you look at that report, it's very unprofessional. It didn't dive into things. And then we had a local CPA who he won the award to audit the County of Erie, the school district of Mill Creek, the township of Mill Creek. And he looked at that report and he looked at the numbers they were doing and he told them, your numbers are all wrong. Your numbers are not correct that you're looking at. You're comparing things from other townships and you're using numbers that don't make sense. So that, as far as I'm concerned, that other government study report was just not legitimate at all. It was not a good study. And I'm not for spending any more money than you have to spend for anything. I'm just not for that. But when we contacted other townships and we looked at other government studies, our cost is right in line with theirs. The Pennsylvania Economy League or Public Partners, their fees are just the same. If you want a good product for the people of Mill Creek, then you have to pay for it. And when we were out promoting the ballot question, exactly what is being spent is exactly what people were told it would cost before they voted for the question. So they knew it right up front. It was asked a lot of times. It was asked us door to door. It was put in print. And so they did know what it was going to cost. And I think maybe it might be a good idea to see what the study comes up with, what the study looks like before we pass judgment that it costs too much. And I'm hoping, Dennis, that you'll be pleasantly surprised. And I do have to say something about Dennis. Dennis has been coming to township meetings how many years, Dennis? He comes, he pays attention, he does. And there are several times he's tried to warn people about things and they didn't listen and they should have been. But I do, Dennis, I do have faith in these consultants, and I think we're going to come up with a good product that's worth every penny that we're paying.
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Any other public comment?
Move to adjourn?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, we have the good of the order yet. Thank you.
I just have one comment. I have a comment for the good of the order, and I appreciate the folks that came and spoke at the public comment section. We have to, as a commission, we have to understand, we have to realize that this process that we've been elected to pursue is pretty much outlined at the state, and we're actually conducting this in accordance with the guidelines established by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the Department of Community and Economic Development. And I think we have to stay focused on what we're doing here. It has to be within the guidelines of the outline, or whatever you want to say, the guidelines from the DCED in the Commonwealth. And we're going to continue to perform this study in accordance with those guidelines. I just thought it's very important to maybe remind the commission members of that fact.
Thank you, Mr. Wojtek. Anything else for the good of the order? Do you have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
So carried.